All right, Gators, let's get into it. Another Billy Napier special. Sunbelt Billy did it again. Big loss on the road at LSU against one of the worst defenses in the SEC. So everybody's supposed to feel proud that we scored 30-some points. Really nothing to write home about. Offense was decent, not good when we needed it most, especially running three straight run plays on a drive that we had momentum, could have scored on. Everybody knows what I'm talking about right there. Same three run plays in a row. Just no creativity after the scripted stuff. Defense just a shill, absolute, you know, an abomination for a defense. I don't know what else to call it. Can't stop JT. We basically won him the Heisman Trophy. Made him look better than he's ever looked in his entire career. We do that for every quarterback and every offense we play. We just have no physicality. You know, I don't know. Coming up with Mizzou, 2 losses. Very, very good Missouri team. Definitely going to take another L here. 8-2. Star linebacker Tyrone Hopper, one of the best linebackers in the country. He will probably ball out on Florida. All of our good players that we really needed this season left, and I think they left for a reason. A lot of those offensive linemen we lost were key contributors. So a lot of things looking back now that make you realize Billy ran off some of the better players that we needed to keep on this roster, and it was not addition by subtraction. Um, we got worse players. We got guys that don't belong at Florida, like Manny Nunnery and Cam Jackson, who everybody hyped up so much and has been a complete bust, in my opinion. Banks, just guys that, were good portal players, but a lot of guys that nobody wanted. The portal recruiting process has got to get a lot better this year. That strategy needs to change. They've got to get in on guys earlier. They've got to get their evals done faster. You cannot wait till after all the bowl games are played. That strategy has got to change, or we're going to get left behind. See what FSU's done. Florida can do the same. There's no reason for our portal recruiting to be so bad. There's no depth at quarterback behind Mertz. They've got Schrader at Missouri, who's rushed for over 1,000 yards, 1,124 yards total. They got Burden, who's almost a 1,000-yard receiver with 984 yards. They've got talent. They're not as talented as Florida. Neither is a lot of teams we play, but we make them look more talented. We have better recruiting rankings than Missouri, Kentucky, South Carolina, who we barely had to come back and beat. It's just unacceptable at this point. Florida is not as bad as what they're putting on the field. Their talent is better. It's not getting coached and developed. I don't want to hear it about Dan Mullen and all this stuff. The roster's been turned over. These are mostly Billy's guys now. There's a few Dan Mullen specials out there, like Scooby Williams, who are hurting this team and limiting our ability. We don't need to recruit tweeners anymore. That's why Waller's not a huge loss in the class, but it does hurt perception. 2 guys gone already, and that's all Billy had to hang his hat on was recruiting. More are going to come. Nasir and Amarius are 2 that I'm thinking of. Yeah, guys, the outlook is bleak right now. Brady Cook, top 5 quarterback in the SEC, 17 TDs, 6 interceptions, a 148 rating. Solid numbers, comparable to Mertz, but except for the fact that he can actually throw the ball down the field and doesn't get sacked near as much. 68 QBR. He's probably going to throw at Kimber all day long for multiple touchdowns. Don't know why Devin Moore is not playing more than he is. I guess he's hurt again. Kid's like glass. He can't stay healthy and stay on the field. He's admitted as much that he's been hurt, so that's not all on the staff. But heck, anybody. I'd play a true freshman over there over Kimber, even if he gets thrown on every time and scored on. I mean, at this point, it can't get any worse. Billy's class is just falling apart at this point. It could be. We'll have to see what happens over the next couple of weeks. He loses another game, you're going to see another decommit. He loses next 2 games straight, you're going to see a handful. You're going to see multiple decommits. Progress, no. No fire, no passion. Doesn't care about the fans. He's made that clear in press conferences. Still stubborn. Not showing any ability to be humble, make changes. You got to make the changes now. You cannot wait until things are completely sinking, which they already are, but completely falling apart, and try to put it back together. I have a feeling we're going to lose several commits and end up replacing them with low-hanging 3-stars. That's where we're going right now with this direction. Young guys play at programs all the time. Where are you going to sell them? Hey, we just need you. We just need your young, youth are going to play. We just need your talent. Why? I can go play as a true freshman at Georgia or Ohio State or wherever and have success immediately and win big and go to the playoffs. I don't have to take part in a 5 to 6 year rebuild that's unnecessary and will never be rebuilt, because in year 2 we should be 7-5, 8-4, which is not a reality at this point unless a miracle happens. Um, Offensive coordinator, need one bad. Offensive line, get rid of one of the coaches. Special teams, need a coordinator. Strength and conditioning coach, fire him. We look soft. We look weak on the field. We get pushed around too much. We don't look physical. We shy from contact. We have an army for nutrition. I don't see where any of that stuff's paying off to me. The guys look fat on the defensive line. They all have guts. They don't look like they're in as good a shape as reported, after spring and summer workouts. What eventually must be done now. That's a saying I love to repeat. Fisher's gone at A&M. Took too long, but his buyout was too big. That's where Strickland really stuck it to Florida. $32 million buyout for Billy. He's not going anywhere until after year 3, unfortunately. We don't have the money to pay that buyout, so we're stuck with another losing season probably next year.
In a quarter mile.
Mississippi State gets rid of Zach Arnett. And the guy got 1 year. I think that was more of circumstances, but 2 SEC coaches fired, and Florida still with old Sunbelt Billy. Amarius and Napier, like I said, get ready, because those 2 guys are coming up. Crystal ball today to Georgia for Napier, so we'll see what happens. Arkansas game, Missouri blows the doors off of Tennessee, makes that win over Tennessee look even worse now for Florida. Still glad we beat them. I'll take it any day over a rival. Arkansas game was the turning point for Billy this season and his career here at Florida. Such a bad loss at home.
Right
again, not on the offense in that game. Totally not on the offense. 100% on the defense. I just don't know what else to say at this point about this defense. I mean, Arkansas, this is what makes Florida look so bad. Go look up their schedule. Sandwiched in between the 2 games is Florida. 30-something points. We made them look like a juggernaut. Game before, they scored a field goal against Mississippi State, who's a quarter of talent as Florida. I mean, I don't even know words can't even describe how that's got to make any Florida fan feel. And then for them to come into Florida and score 30-something points on us, with the talent that we have on this roster, and then to turn around the next week and get 10 points against an Auburn team who is very similar in talent to Florida is just completely unacceptable. It just makes Billy and this staff look completely lost and completely unprepared to coach at the SEC level. It really does. At the end of the day, that result right there, the comparative property, is not something a lot of people like to use, but that's just too obvious at this point. Like I said, we won JT Daniels the Heisman. Everybody just looks amazing against Florida. We look like we're the worst team in the SEC besides Vanderbilt, in my opinion. We're just as bad as South Carolina, even though we beat them. I don't think we're much better than South Carolina. We're only have the record we have because of the cupcake games that we played. McNeese State is really fluffing up the stats for Florida, and they're bad even with that game put in there. We're setting records in almost every game for different players. Davis for Kentucky. I mean, it's just unreal, the stats that players put up against Florida's defense. And recruiting's all Billy had to hang his hat on right now. I don't know what he sells to people. I don't know what he's selling to this administration. FSU passed us in recruiting. They're number 3 now. We've dropped to number 4 and likely going to finish outside the top 5, which is going to have Billy losing his job. This class, I've said it before, we've talked about it many, many times. This class had to be a top 5 class in order for Billy to keep his job, in order for Florida to even have the infusion of talent that they need to get back to relevant again. Top 10's not going to get it, guys. This team next year still not a top 25 team, even with a top 10 class. They're just not with the coaching that we're getting. Talent is the only way Billy can try to cover up, to some extent, his failures as a coach. I'm going to go ahead and tell you now, Missouri 45, Florida 17 in an ugly game. And I'm going to tell you why. Defensively, Missouri's stout. I'm going to go over the stats here, just show you the comparison. It's not even close. It's night and day difference between the two teams. Points per game, 24th for Mizzou. 21st in points per play. 15 yards per play. Okay? 15th in the country in yards per play. Top 50 rushing offense. Yards per pass, 9.4. That's incredible. That's elite. That's explosive. What does Florida lack? What is Florida the worst at? Giving up explosive plays. 8th in the country in yards per pass. All right. They have a top 50 defense. Florida will probably, like I said, move the ball a little bit at times. They've done it in most games. You know, I think I got UF top 50. Oh, I'm sorry, Mizzou. I'm sorry, I'm getting confused. Top 50 on defense for Missouri. Florida, top 50 on offense. Like I said, Florida's offense hasn't been terrible. 56th in point per game. Like I said, top 50 offense. 47th in yards per game. Yards per play, 5.6, 50th in the country. 5.6, not great. Very, very average. Let's see. Defense, we're in the 100s in almost every statistical category. Points per game, we're 92nd. Yards per game, 99th. Points per play, 114th, giving up those explosive plays. Good job, Kimber. Jason Marshall, thank you. Yards per play, 129th. Good gosh, that's just embarrassing. Rushing defense, we're in the 100s. Passing, let's see, it says top 30. I don't think that's right. Sacks, we're 105th. Penalties, 93rd and 103rd in the country. I mean, this team is just, I don't know. Season's lost. You know, Billy's got to make those changes we talked about. I don't know what the direction is at this point. You know, I think we're just going to bumble and fumble through next year. The class is going to fall apart. I hope I'm wrong. I know I'm on the negative train, like always. But Florida just hasn't done anything to change my mind. I kind of called it before the season. I did buy some of the hype. I was overly optimistic now, and some of y'all were talking about 9 and 10 wins. Looks like I was actually overly optimistic, thinking of 7 and 8 wins for the season. I actually bought in, and I really thought Florida maybe could pull it off, but it's just not going to happen, guys. It's not going to happen. I don't think Billy's the guy for the job here at Florida. He thinks his process and his system is working. He needed to show progress. Results on the field do not matter in recruiting until they do, and they do when you're in the end of the year 2 with 5 wins, looking at a worse season than year 1. It's not going to play with recruits, guys. NIL is a big deal. Florida will probably hang on to a lot of these guys, but there's going to be a handful of some of the bigger ones that are really going to hurt, and they're not going to be replaced with better players. So, noise is in the system. The seat is hot. We'll see what happens. Go Gators.